So
Okay.
it's okay to begin. Thank you so much again for hosting. I would like to welcome everyone to this recording. We are extremely honored and blessed to have Dean Jacobs. Dean is an educator and a healer. He's not only traveled to over 50 countries, but also taken many students with him in person and virtually. And if you are looking to instill positivity, hope, and adventure into your classroom space or just your life, please visit him at deanjacobs.org. And Dean, are you still available to travel to classrooms?
I am. Yeah, matter of fact,
Okay.
we're opening, I'm just starting to fill that in now, as long as it's not on a Thursday, because every Thursday I'm at the Omaha Nation Reservation School up at Macy.
And sometimes you're in another country, right? You just returned from a trip with students from South America. So,
Yeah, 17 students into the Amazon rainforest. You want to go?
oh, definitely. Always.
All right, good. We need to organize that one of these days. That would be a great Malaika Foundation trip, wouldn't it?
It would be. And I must add that Dean is also a board member of the Malaika Foundation, who is sponsoring our summer series. We have videos from talented educators throughout the summer, but Dean is our capstone video, and we are so excited to learn from him and leave just feeling lighter and ready to take on the world, literally. So,
Awesome. Very good. Well, this is a great time for us to champion our educators here in Nebraska as they get ready to begin another school year. And I'm gonna dissect this a little bit to serve our community and those who are consuming this at another time to help them understand what they've been through a little bit in the last couple of years, and then how to manage that so we can keep ourselves in a better place moving forward. Does that sound good? Thumbs up. Give me thumbs up there.
absolutely.
Okay, good. Awesome. Very good. All
I
right.
see the Malaika Foundation logo,
Okay, good.
which
And
is
welcome.
Nebraska's Global Education Foundation, and welcome. And then Dean Jacobs logo here.
Yeah, my
So
little, yep.
amazing.
But we got the Malaika people in the right place, right on top, because they are on top of, global education for the state of Nebraska. I just want to give them another shout out. It's a pleasure and an honor to work with a group of people so committed to bringing the international experience into the Nebraska classroom because we are global. I'll never forget the one time I was in Africa doing research on Sudanese refugees in Ethiopia, and I met a guy from Lincoln, Nebraska, who was visiting his family there. So we think that we're not connected to the world. Sometimes we can think that, but we are way more connected than we sometimes understand or give ourselves permission to dream. So, all right, educators, it's another year. And here at the Malaika Foundation, we want to champion you, celebrate you. So we're here to wave a little oxygen on your flames so they continue to burn bright. It's been a challenge of the last couple of years. The COVID, I called the somewhat blanket of fear that's like tried to cover us over. So we're not shining as bright as what we are capable of because we've been trying to figure out how to navigate this. In my coaching world, as I do some live coaching, we've been talking about recently phase one, phase two, and phase three. Phase one was the original shock and awe of COVID. We're like just spinning, trying to figure out what this is. This is back in the spring of 2020, in the summer, et cetera. So we were just like, what's going on? Phase two is where we started to develop the coping mechanisms, how to navigate that, how to be with that a little bit. But now we're moving into phase three. And phase three is whether we want to or not, phase three is coming. These are, by the way, these are the traditional things that things tend to evolve in a big scale or even in a small scale. So I'm dissecting this a little bit so we can have some awareness around it. Phase three is where things start to the new normal, whatever that really is, but that determination again to be productive, to be participants. And some of us have gotten a little comfortable with phase two and almost enabling that. And I think sometimes we got a little bit maybe too comfortable with that coping mechanism. And because I even know when I flew to South America in May, and I'm not a tree. I don't have deep roots, even though I love Nebraska. I need to move. And I noticed a little bit of that fear even came up for me. And I'm committed to being a good global citizen and doing my part to vaccinate and things like that. But at the same time, there's a little bit of that fear. And we have to make sure we don't let that trap us in the box. So part of our intention today is to wave a little oxygen on all your internal flames so they continue to burn bright, to support you as we move into phase 3. So we can begin to have that expectation of ourselves again, that I am capable of moving forward, and I am capable of contributing, and I am capable of having excellence how I will contribute to the classroom or to the educational community. So I'm here to remind you that we're not here to, just go through the motions and pay bills and die, but we're here to contribute, and that you're capable of doing that. And we're here to celebrate that. Now, to help us move forward in that celebration, how to process, all right, okay, Dean Jacobs, I got you. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, it's time to be more productive. But, I have all these conversations going in my head. How do I move forward and manage that in a way where I can be aware of it, but don't let it trap me in the box? So let's talk about how the mind works for just a moment, for a few seconds. We have a ton of thoughts. And I did a little bit of research on this from the National Science Foundation. We have between 12 and 60,000 thoughts a day. All right. Now, some people might argue that people have fewer than that, but this is not marriage counseling. This is something else at this point in time. But that's the average, between 12 and 60,000 thoughts a day. That's a lot of thoughts. But here's the important things to really begin to understand around all this. 80% of those thoughts are negative, according to the research. 80%. This is a photo of mine from the Amazon rainforest, from oil extraction and pollution. That's a really negative situation. So 80% of them are really, our thoughts are negative. And then on top of that, 95% of them are repetitive. So we have 80% negative thoughts, and then 95% of them are repetitive. So what do we do? Like, Dean Jacobs, this is supposed to be inspirational, not like this kind of heavy. Well, first of all, it starts with having the awareness of how this thing operates. And from there, we can start to make choices about what we want to do about it. So this is important, to at least have that foundation of understanding. All right, we have 12 to 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% are negative, 95% are repetitive. But the good news is that we are not stuck with just those thoughts. We're not stuck with them. We can actually do things that was my truck. I got stuck in the countryside in Nebraska, right? So that's a little reminder. Well, I'm not stuck with that truck anymore because I don't have it anymore. Now I got a 4-wheel drive because I decided not to get stuck in the countryside anymore. But we don't have to be stuck with these thoughts. We can start to be intentional about what we want to think, how we want to think, and how we want to feel with those thoughts. We can interrupt those patterns, but we have to be intentional to interrupt those patterns. Well, okay, good. We can interrupt them. So the question then is like, well, Dean Jacobs, how do we interrupt those patterns? And one of the ways that we interrupt those patterns is with something inspiring. That's my little nephew, and I just saw him the other day up in Wisconsin. We do something inspiring that interrupts that negative loop that showed you on that racetrack, something that will grab our attention, something that helps us re-engage and become more present in the moment so we can get reconnected to the magic of life and not just trapped in the walls and see nothing but darkness kind of thing. But we have to be open to that possibility and receptive and intentional to create and nurture that. So here's another little educational point, at least from my perspective, and this was really helpful. This is the majority of how the mind works. When I say the word apple, what do you see? Do you see the word apple? Or do you see what? The fruit. And sometimes they're yellow, sometimes they're red, sometimes they're green, or maybe sometimes it's a cell phone these days, depending on what age you're asking, right? But the point that I'm trying to make is that we think in images. We consume information from the world around us and process it in the way of creating an image. That's part of why it's so hard for us to get our arms wrapped around an abstract idea, because it's hard to get a picture in our mind what that really is. But the majority of our world and our mind likes to consume and process things in images. It's good to understand start from that foundation of awareness, because we can use that to our advantage as far as beginning to put this thing up here in a better place. Make sense? Give me a thumbs up if you understand what I'm putting down there, Alicia. Understand? Good? Awesome. Love it. A virtual thumbs up. We are really moving forward in this world. Both of you. Okay. Thank you, Lindsay. All right. So what does that do? So what I've done is I'm going to share a little bit about the framework of what I use and some of my experience of how I use this framework around the themes of dreaming big, of living tall, and making the world better. Now, this is the framework how I move forward through life. You may have your own framework, or you might find pieces of this that work for you. But I'm going to share this with you with the intention of supporting you that we don't have to be stuck with those thoughts, but as long as we begin to use a map and some frameworks, we can start to be intentional how we want to use this thing. Okay. So my dream, I had a dream. I had a really big dream, and that was a dream to go travel and see the world because I wanted more than what the corporate life was. I wanted more experiences than what the corporate life was actually giving me at that point in time. So I quit my job and sold my house to take a trip around the world. That first trip lasted for 2 years. And I went through 28 countries, and I've continued to travel since that point in time. Now I've been through 58 countries. If you've added it all up, that would be over 8 years of my life. But what that's allowed me to do is to celebrate and collect positive images, inspiring images, so we can feed what, as I call feed in the dreams. My intention today is to make sure all of you who are listening to this after we've gone through COVID is to make sure our dreamers are being turned on again, because we've gotten caught in that negative narrative that wants to leave us trapped playing small, and we're arguing for our walls, but our walls keep us playing small. We weren't brought here to play small. We were brought here to dream big, right? So this was my dream. One of my dreams anyway was to go travel the world, and I got to see amazing things. For an ordinary guy from Nebraska who got to see and experience things such as the pyramids of Egypt. Now, who doesn't? Who wants to go see the pyramids of Egypt? Yeah, right. And who wouldn't want to go see them? And I climbed inside them. From there, also I got to see things like the base camp of Mount Everest, and I got to see Mount Everest, the highest mountain, the tallest mountain in the entire world. Inspiring. It reminds me that that there are mountains that we can continue to climb emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Those challenges that help us develop the character so we can develop the fortitude and the resilience to keep moving forward. So you all who are listening to this can continue to make the impact that you're committed to doing. Another thing I got to see was like the Great Wall of China. Great Wall of China. And also when I was in China, I got to hang out with the black and white furry guys called what? Called pandas. Now, who wouldn't want to hang out with a panda for a day? Pretty good dream, right? Giving ourselves permission to dream. Or another dream of mine, because I'm a biologist from Wayne State College in Wayne, Nebraska. I love animals. I love nature. Another one of my dreams was go hang out with these guys, dolphins and the Galapagos Islands of Ecuador. That's a good dream too, stretching that box so we don't get trapped there, right? And another one of my dreams was to spend a lot of time in Africa. And, our founder, Natalie, would really appreciate this because she has a special place in her heart for Africa. Dr. Han does. But I spent 7.5 months in Rwanda hanging out with mountain gorillas as a field correspondent for the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund International. And I got to learn about their struggle, survival, and the lessons that taught me how we need to take care of the natural world that depend upon us and don't speak our language, but they need us to do our part so they still have a place to live. And hanging out in the Amazon rainforest, which is always special with some of the animals, getting close and intimate to, some of the nature that life the Amazon rainforest has to share with us. I could talk for hours. The incredible beauty and generosity of the world is extraordinary. And it's important to remember that and to feed our dreams these positive images so we can stay connected to those things that are really important to us as educators, as human beings, as people who are determined to make a contribution to your classroom and to the community. Now, as I traveled around the world, I also realized it's not just traveling around the world, but also how you do it. And I define that in my map as living tall. So we're not here to live in little boxes. We're here to stretch and blow them up. This way, dreaming big, and this way by living tall. Living tall are the values and the principles and how I choose to live my life, not how others have dictated to me, but the internal work that I've done so that I can show up as the best version of myself consistently over and over again, and to learn those important lessons along the way. It's part of why I'm here today, because I have a mission in my own heart to continue to give back to the world that has been so generous to me. And so that's why I go hang out in schools. That's why I love participating in the Malaika Foundation and those causes that have a special place in my heart, because we connect to the world through our values, the values that we choose to bring forward, to be expressions of who we want to be and how we want to interact with the world, in particular things like kindness, right? And being, you don't have to be super wealthy to be kind. You just got to have a commitment to do so, or make a decision in your heart to do so. Or generosity. I love when I go out into the field on my adventures and projects, or even when I take groups like to the SIGEPs into the Amazon rainforest, we always bring school materials. Bring school materials to support that education process, because I know if we can help them, support them, educate themselves, they can stand up for their indigenous rights. That also widens their perspective, because the wider the perspective, what? The bigger the dreams. And we need everybody dreaming big so they can make the contribution that they are here to make, right? And then another one is something like respect, just being respectful, respect for this journey of life, that it's not an accident that any of us are here. So what are we going to do to make it count? So where can those qualities show up along the way? Those are important to me. Those are just a few of the values, but those values, we can either leave them to random chance, depending how we feel that day, or we can start to be intentional. How can we bring those forward into the classroom, in our life experiences, or at home, or wherever we go? Make sense? Give me a thumbs up if you understand what I'm putting down there. Okay, awesome. There's a thumb. Good. And so then the last part of all this, of course, is, well, what's the mission? What's the purpose of all this, right? And as I said earlier, I just don't believe that we were brought here to pay bills, walk through life, pay bills, and die. I really think that each of us has a unique color to add to the canvas of life. And it is our work to discover what that is, and then be committed to continue to develop it until we become our own masters of our own life. And we become our own Rembrandts of our own canvas. So it adds our unique color and beauty to this dance called life, living. So it's important to look outside ourselves and just challenge ourselves. Where can I add more to this equation? So when I take groups, like during COVID shut international travel down. So what I did, I took them out to the western Nebraska, to the Niobrara River up near Valentine. We spent 2 days cleaning the river. That's the opposite of what you imagine a fraternity to do. But like, they spent 2 days cleaning the river, and we did service projects in the community of Sparks, etc. So there are many ways to make the world better. You just have to find the way that speaks and pulls to your own heartstrings. It could be as simple as just picking up some trash. It could be as beautiful as planting something, a tree, so we can add more oxygen to our world. Or it could be just offering a helping hand to those who need a little extra help along the way, because there is definitely a big portion of the world who could use a little helping hand, or even people in our own backyard. As long as we open our eyes, our spirit, and our heart, we will be aware of those things, and then we can take consistent action based on who we want to be. So it's true. You can make an impact, a positive impact in the world. You can do it by giving yourself permission to believe in that. So first, what we got to do is make sure that you're finding your dreams, educators. It's because you're teaching or in an administrative role, depending on how this finds you. Just because you're an adult doesn't mean you stop dreaming. My challenge to each and every one of you is to make sure you continue to dream, to nurture that internal flame that burns on the inside of each of you. Because I do know that as your light burns brighter, it will spill into the classroom and add more light and beauty and consciousness and awareness to all those individuals that you have the gift and the opportunity to impact. Okay. Second, we want to make sure that we're continuing to live tall every day, that those are just not random, but intentional acts of our principles and values, such as kindness and respect, dignity, and responsibility, and all those guideposts that help us show up and move towards being the best version of ourselves. And more, what I want to say is, now more than ever, it's important that we intentionally move forward down that path this way, because COVID is kind of trapped us playing small a little bit. And there's always going to be some kind of struggle. That's just part of the equation of life. But we don't have to let that define us. We get to define ourselves in the face of those struggles and be determined how we want to grow and develop our character as a result. And the third is, make the world better. Make the world better each and every day. And not just hope it becomes better, but find a small way to do that that's consistent with who you are, where you're at, and who you want to be. So I have a little map here. I'm going to invite people, as you're watching this, screenshot this, do a screenshot of this, right? And this, you can use this and print it up and keep it printed up somewhere, put it up there to remind you that life is an adventure and that we're not here to live small, but we're here to what? We're here to dream big. We're here to live tall, and we're here to do our part to make the world better. And to help us keep that on our mental dashboard, on the back side of that, there's actually a card that I photograph or scan both sides, is, well, then you ask yourself, by asking ourselves, that engages our mind in this process. Engagement, that's important, because otherwise we run the risk of not taking action with what's important, and no wonder why we feel dissatisfied. By the way, a dream without action is just a distraction. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're taking action on our dream. So the questions are, what will you do today for your dreaming big? What will you do today to live tall? And what will you do today to make the world better? And while you're working on that, to fill out that column, then you go on the next column. What will you do tomorrow? Because that sets up the expectation. That creates hope for the future, that you have some agency with how life is going to show up, and you have a voice to contribute to this beautiful thing called life. So educators, on behalf of the Malaika Foundation, we are cheering you on. We believe in you. We know that you are doing great things. We would just wanted to wave some oxygen on your internal flame so they continue to burn bright. So you continue to walk forward with that sense of confidence and knowing that you are valued and that you're making a difference. And sometimes I know there are days it doesn't feel like it, but I promise that you are. And then one day some young person is going to walk up to you walking down the sidewalk and say, hey, thank you for not giving up on me in those hard times when everything else was not so easy, but you continued to show up in your classroom and be an amazing teacher that made all the difference in the world. I promise you those stories are coming. So yes, and that is what we got for you, educators. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Alicia?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dean. I appreciate it. And Dean, you're an integral part of the Malaika Foundation, as well as running your own organization, deanjacobs.org. We hope that you continue to impact in person, as you mentioned, as we move to phase 3, kind of out of that phase 2.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing just even the littlest bit of your expertise tonight. You have so many amazing points to make to inspire us. We're really grateful, and we hope that this message finds everyone well and ready to dream big today and tomorrow amid all of the craziness at the start of the school year.
Absolutely. And this just a little reminder that we are capable of much greater things than sometimes when we give ourselves credit for, but it's what we put on the mental dashboards and what we consume in those images. I mean, that's why I don't watch the news. I mean, I want to be aware of what's going on in the world, but I'll read about it. I don't want to get sucked into all that negative narrative, I call it, because it just leaves us trapped playing small. And we got important things to do as educators, as citizens, as role models in our communities, to make sure that because the young people are looking to us as examples how to handle these challenges. So if we can manage that better within ourselves, if we can show up and continue to work towards and evolve towards and improve to be a better version of ourselves, that gives them a map too, like how to show up. We just don't fold when things are hard. No, we use that as an opportunity to develop our character so we can shine bright and make Nebraska an amazing place to live.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for shining by example, Dean. We're extremely grateful, and we hope that this message connects with, I hope that a lot of people are able to connect with this message. I was almost speaking Spanish there, Dean. I don't know.
Todo bien. Mi esposa, Ecuadorian, son poco españoles. All total.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I almost was. So thank you again so much. We really appreciate your time this evening, and we hope that everyone's able to not only watch this message, but return to it at various points throughout the year. So thank you.
You're welcome. I hope it served our community in our state and anyone who's needing a little spark, because we appreciate you. We send you love. I'll leave with this. I've always like, how Dean Jacobs, how do you leave the world better when you go to sacred places like the birthplace of Christ and Buddha and things like that? Like, how do you leave those places better? And this is what I've done. You don't necessarily leave them with something physical. I always leave it with a blessing. So I leave us tonight with this blessing. And it goes like this: blessings to all who've come before, blessings to all who are here now, and blessings who all come after. May they find peace in their heart and joy in their journey.